The key for the Illini to reach their postseason ambitions might just be Will Riley.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini, a Tuesday edition. My name is Sonny Verma. Do me a favor, find me on your favorite social media platform, whether that's X, Blue Sky, Facebook, TikTok. I believe I'm even on. Just do a search for Locked On Illini. Make sure you hit subscribe, say hello, send a message, say something nice, say something not so nice. Just keep it constructive. That's all I ask. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. For today's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the big picture. And the big picture right now, the Illini currently stand at 7-5. And now that's clearly not quite the record that a lot of us probably dreamed of at this point in the season. Now, while Illinois was only projected to be fourth in the Big Ten Conference, I think a lot of the national folks forget about that. Most Illini fans, we honestly dreamed of winning the Big Ten Conference this year. There's no elite team, or so we thought, and I think that thought is confirmed. And so why not Illinois? But those dreams were quickly dashed by losses to Maryland, to USC, and Nebraska, basically essentially knocking us out of the race. But I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because now Illinois can focus on what, if we're being really honest, is the ultimate goal, and that's March. And that's, making it again to the second weekend, to the Sweet 16, maybe making it to the Elite Eight, and foolish me, maybe even beyond that. I realize that I know I tell you guys every single day that I still think Illinois has the highest ceiling in this conference. I say it every week. I think, gun to my head, if you tell me, hey, there's only one team from the Big Ten Conference that's going to win the national championship, which one is it going to be? I've watched plenty of Purdue this year. I've watched plenty of Michigan State this year. I've watched plenty of Michigan this year. I'm telling you, the only team on their best night that I can think can beat an Auburn on their best night is the Illini. So, of course, I'm going to say that. But Illinois is going to need help. And I feel like Illinois has gotten help, at least over the last 3 games, and that's from freshman Will Riley. Let's start from the beginning. For those of you, just to catch up a little bit, Will Riley, one of the highest recruit that Illinois has gotten in a very long time. We beat out the Arizona Wildcats for him. Arizona was very confident that they were going to get his services, but Illinois and Orlando Antigua were able to secure his services. And then we saw what happened in that first game, right, against Eastern Illinois. He goes off for 31 points, and all of Illini Nation braced themselves. We have a superstar. He's 6'8", can score out of the building. This guy is going to be a future NBA lottery pick, a top 10 pick even. Let's just enjoy Will. Let's enjoy Kasparis for one season, because that's all we're going to have of them. That's not quite how it played out, at least over the next couple months. Will's shooting percentages, let's just be honest, have gone down a bit. And in particular, in the Big Ten Conference, I believe he's only shooting, at one point it was 12% for the entire conference season so far. And, obviously that's not going to cut it. We need someone to, score when Kasparis isn't scoring. About 3-4 weeks ago, I talked about on one of the post games that while I loved everything that Kasparis was doing for us, what I thought could be the ultimate flaw to this team is that I don't know who that Robin is. Hey, Kasparis, as great as he's playing, and at that point he was mocked in the top 3 of a lot of NBA mock drafts, he's a freshman. And freshmen, almost every single one, at some point hit a freshman wall. When he does, who's going to pick up the slack? Now, I'm not saying Will Riley has completely turned it around to the point where I'm confident he's going to, but in a must-win game against Ohio State on Sunday, when Kasparis had one of his worst games of the year, he only had 8 points. It was Will Riley in that second half who single-handedly, I would argue, won us that game with 20 points of his own just in that second half. Now, let me backtrack a little bit. Obviously, Will struggled for the majority of the season, but my everydayers in here know, say, like, I watch every game the day after every morning. And that's basically just to see if there's certain guys I want to focus on or other points that I want to make for you guys for this particular show. And I started mentioning, hey, while Will's shots aren't going in, the other facets of his games is getting better each and every day. Brad obviously trusts Will to be a playmaker of some sorts. And again, I'm going to get to that in a second. And what I really like, and quite honestly, I know it drove some of you guys crazy, and I don't blame you, is that despite his awful shooting, he didn't stop shooting. Will Riley was put on this earth to score. If you don't believe me, go watch his high school highlights. It's those highlights that I watched when I realized that we were in the running for Will's services that got me excited for him. It was those highlights that had me thinking that once he committed, there's an outside chance that he might be our leading scorer on the Illini for this upcoming season, which is pretty high standards considering he's a freshman. But that's just not how it played out. But he didn't let it affect him. I truly don't think that his confidence really ever wavered, because even when his shots weren't falling, he was still getting decent minutes. Brad still showed that he trusts him, and it's because Will was doing the other things on the court that you want a winning player to do. It sounds silly now, and again, I might ultimately still be wrong. This might be a premature video, but I was never really worried about Will Riley's scoring. I don't know whether it would have shown up this year, and I talked about that in the previous episode, but he's just so naturally talented at it that I just think that at some point the game would have slowed down for him, and that eventually the ball will start going through the hoop. 16 points in the first half against Michigan State in a game where we didn't have Kasparis. And again, that's just further proof of my original point. Hey, when Kasparis is not in, who can handle that scoring load? When Kasparis got into foul trouble, 2-3 minutes into that Michigan State game, who was it that carried the load offensively for the Illini? It was Will Riley. On Sunday, when Kasparis had one of his worst games, who was it that carried the load scoring for the Illini? It was Will Riley. What I like about Will is, as I mentioned before, he's not shy. His confidence doesn't waver. Brad Underwood said it in the postgame after Ohio State that there's no one in that locker room that works harder than Will Riley. And there's no one who loves the game more than Will does. You know when that could come into play? March. When those lights are the brightest, when the pressure is on, I do think that Will Riley could be the key for the Illini to reach those levels that we're hoping for, that we reached last year. Kasparis, I'm not worried about him. Like I said, I mean, freshman walls happen. I think he's going to figure it out. I don't know anything if there's a lingering injury or not. No one else has asked about it. So maybe I'm just making up a scenario in my head thinking that something might be lingering. But ultimately, I think Kasparis is going to be fine and return to the 16, 7, and 5 player that he was earlier in the season. But if Will Riley ends up being a 14, 15-point scorer off the bench, then I think Illinois could be in really good shape. And you know who's fine with that role? Normally, you have a highly ranked recruit coming into a program and he's not starting right away. And let's be honest, there's a lot of Illinois people out there. There's a lot of national people out there who are wondering, hey, is Will Riley happy coming off the bench? Shouldn't he be starting? These were Will Riley's quotes about his role on this team. I feel like I'm just like the spark off the bench. I got to go in and do my role. Sometimes the ball's not going to come to me as much, and sometimes it needs to come to me, and I'll take that opportunity, whatever one it is. I'm just happy to help this team get wins. And I'm telling you, when Will Riley is on, getting those wins are going to be a lot easier. There's still a lot of season left, and I know Will Riley has struggled for the majority of it, but he's just so talented that I truly do think that if we're starting to see the breakout of Will that we're all kind of silently hoping for, well, then not only am I not ready to write off this season yet, but I'm going to dream. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game? Finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The seat view feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat looks like in the venue. It's so reassuring. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guaranteed. If you find a better deal anywhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And welcome back. Again, if you haven't hit that subscribe button already, there's something like 58% of you as of Sunday that watch the show, and I appreciate you watching the show, but you aren't subscribed to the channel. Trust me, it costs you guys absolutely nothing, but it helps this channel grow immensely. It's my goal to hit 2,100 subscribers by the end of February, and I do think that you guys are going to help me get there. So this is going to be kind of ironic, talking about the first segment where I'm talking about dreaming about Final Four runs, Elite Eight runs, and who knows beyond that. But I'm going to kind of take a shorter term perspective for this particular segment, and that's just talking about these next two games. We have Rutgers on Wednesday, and then we have Minnesota on Saturday. And I will have more in-depth previews the day before each and every game. But today, I just kind of wanted to talk about this team in general and this week in general. And I really do think that we're going to learn a lot about this basketball team this week. Are they as good as I think they can be? Or do I need to kind of resettle my expectations and maybe bring them down a little bit? That second half against Ohio State, Illinois to me was super impressive. Not only did I not expect Ivisic to come back so quickly, my original goal was for him to come back against Rutgers. So he came back one game early, but he played 30 minutes. I really thought that, coming back from mono, that he would have to slowly be introduced back to the game where he averaged maybe 10 minutes here, 15 minutes the next game, and then basically leading his way to 25, 30 minutes as we get closer to the end of the year. But that's not what happened. But we had Tomislav, Ivisic, and Morez Johnson starting at the 4 and 5, which my everydayers in here know I've been calling the death lineup. I really do think that had the potential to be our best lineup, not only because it's so elite defensively, but because even on the offensive end, those two styles of play can really blend well together. And that's exactly what happened on Sunday. We saw what happened when Illinois just decided to stop shooting threes. Because you know what? Illinois is not good at shooting threes. We all see it. Everyone sees it. But for some reason, Illinois has continued to shoot them. And what we are starting to get worried about, and I know you had the same exact thought in the first half of that Ohio State game, is when Illinois at some point was just not making 3 points. Here we go. Here it goes. It's happening again. It happened against Nebraska. Against Nebraska, Illinois ended up being 10 for 42 from three-point land, and we lost a game that they absolutely should have won. Why? Because they didn't deviate from the plan. Same thing at Ohio State. First half, we're down, I believe, 6 points at halftime. Why? Because we're not hitting the wide-open three-point shots that normally a team should make. But you know what? Again, we're struggling there. And I'm not even hesitant to say that we may not be struggling. We may just not be a good three-point shooting team. But there was a difference this time. They did deviate. Brad Underwood did make some adjustments. And all of a sudden, Kasparis, who our best player, struggled all game long, took a back seat. And almost, I say that literally, Brad Underwood didn't even play him in significant portions of meaningful time in that second half. Why? Because the rest of the offense was humming. It was Tomislav Ivisic playing playmaker. Well, as I mentioned, Will Riley goes off for 20 points in one half alone. Kylan Boswell had his best game in a very long time. And Again, it was that second half, those 20 minutes, which all of a sudden had me sit back and wonder, see, this team that I'm watching right now, they have something that all the other teams I'm watching don't have. And it's not like the game itself wasn't impressive in the sense where Ohio State had just won 3 in a row coming into that game, including beating Purdue at Mackey, which everyone knows is not easy to do. But Illinois came in with hot shooting Ohio State in that first half. They settled down. They made some adjustments to their strategy, and voila, Illinois looked like Illinois. They scored, 87 points? And I believe they only made 4 or 5 three-pointers that entire game. Still scored 87 points. Think about that for a second. This team has so many offensive weapons, but what I'm afraid of is having another clunker. We have Rutgers on Wednesday. We have Minnesota on Saturday. 2 teams that Illinois absolutely should beat. Now, Rutgers has 1, potentially 2 guys who are going to be top 3 picks in next year's NBA draft playing. I mean, those guys are going to be top 3 picks regardless. I just don't know if they're going to be both playing on Wednesday. But regardless, Illinois still has the best roster, and it's not even close. And if Illinois is the team that I think that they are, I think that being out of this Big Ten title race can be a blessing for them. Nobody's focusing on the Illini anymore except for us. We're the ones watching. But we can't have these up and down games over and over again. I truly do think that if we lose one of the next 2, whether it is Rutgers or Minnesota, then my own positivity for the rest of the year is going to take a hit. Once Minnesota is done, that schedule gets a lot tougher. And if you don't believe me, go take a look at the schedule. We're going to need these 2 wins to be sitting at 9-5, and then really start facing what a lot of people are going to say is the gauntlet of our Big Ten schedule this year. I think they can do it. I genuinely do. I do think maybe this is just false confidence, but I think we turn things around against Ohio State because now a lot of people realize how important Ivisic is. And I've said this. I know I'm repeating myself, but I've said this from the beginning of the season that I think Ivisic is the most important player on this team because no one else can duplicate what he does. We caught a glimpse of it against Michigan State, and we caught another glimpse of it in the second half against Ohio State. And he's not even fully healthy yet. I think when Ivisic, gets his full cardio back, we have Morez Johnson, who's playing better by the day. My favorite Illini, Morez Johnson, was put on this earth to rebound, double-double in the first half against Ohio State. I think Illinois may finally be playing the kind of basketball that we've been hoping they would play all season long. But again, all it takes is just one bad game, whether it is Rutgers, whether it is Minnesota. And all of a sudden, all this positivity that a lot of us are starting to build back up comes crashing down again. I don't think that's going to happen. Can it happen? Sure. But if it does, then I'm just going to start thinking that this team might never be able to get out of its own way. And that the inconsistency is just comes with having a team so young and with such big roster turnover. I mean, we're running out of Big Ten games at this point. We're already 12 games in. Over 50% of the season has been completed. And if the team can't figure itself out now, it might just not. But I think we're going to be in good shape. And we'll have a preview for you on Wednesday. And, of course, a preview for Minnesota on Saturday. Make sure you're tuned in to Locked On Illini. Remember, daily Illini coverage. I believe I'm at like day 33 or 34 in a row. And that's including every single day, including weekends of me producing content for you here on Locked On Illini. And I do that because of the tremendous amount of support that you guys continue to show. Shout out to the Discord. Again, if you're not in the Discord already, come join a bunch of like-minded Illini fans. We're talking Illini sports all day long. Not just Illini sports. We're talking about whatever the big news of the day is in that particular day. The link should be in the description. We would love to have you. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Again, Wednesday, Rutgers preview. And of course, as always, I'm going to be going live immediately after the game. So make sure you're subscribed and make sure, you know what? There's a notification bell somewhere here. Hit that too, so you'll know exactly when I go live. I go live immediately after the game. And we have either a celebratory session together or a therapy session together. But regardless, just know that you're going to be constantly getting Illini content on this channel. And I appreciate all of your guys' support. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.